All right, so welcome everybody. Another episode of Bill's Philosophy Podcast. And today I'm joined with a good longtime friend of mine, probably my oldest standing friend, Mike Quintana. And
Hey
Mike,
guys.
Mike, we went to high school together, or middle school, high school together. Remained friends after high school through college and all that kind of good stuff. And here we are today to kind of catch up and talk about some fun stuff. So I kind of want to lead in with really what's awesome for me is you're a freaking dad, dude.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm a dad. Yeah, first of all, we also play music together, man. That's like a
Yes,
really cool thing. That's like one
yes,
of those things that I miss doing right now. Is playing music with people, but also like friends. And I don't know, with everything going on and being a dad, like I feel like that I miss that a lot. Like that's one of the things I miss the most. But it's also one of the things that's very just hard to do now, at least for me. But yeah, I'm a dad. I have which is almost 16 months, which
oh
is
my
amazing.
gosh.
It's like time's like a really bizarre. It's like a it's I think about time. I don't know differently, but just more.
Sure.
Um, uh, I feel like time just goes so quickly. Um, there's like because there's just so much that occupies. I'm a stay-at-home dad, so I'm I try to balance taking care of a baby, and then um, my wife is pregnant, so I'm also trying to make sure that she has everything that she needs, help out a little bit more than I would usually, and then yeah, I'm also trying to work on being creative and writing music for trailers. So doing all that is very time consuming, and
Yeah.
but it's also bizarre because I think about it when my daughter was born. um, my I would occasionally have like flashes of or memories when I was really young, and that
Huh.
was a very interesting new thing, or not really new, but it was an interesting phase in my life, or it is an interesting phase in my life. Um, to it's like a connecting, it's like connecting a cycle or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it. So that's and I feel older too. Oh my god, I feel like a boomer sometimes. Like I mean, I'll get like back pains and stuff, because it's picking things up, and picking my daughter up, and then also like we just moved into a house, and so I just moved a bunch of, so I feel like my back is like not 100%, and I'm tired more, and it's like a lot of I feel like I am not in my 20s anymore. But it's so weird to think I'm in my 20s still. Like God, I feel like an old person right now.
Yeah, no,
That's what
I
that's what
relate.
I feel.
No,
But it's an
I really
amazing
relate
thing.
to
Sorry,
that.
I'm talking a lot.
No, you're good. You're good. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to hear you talk. That's why you're on here.
Oh no.
But no, that's really crazy. Like thinking in terms, first of all, like the entire life shift that has to come with being a dad. Like I have no idea what that's like. I get to teach kids, and I get to be a part of their life and be influential,
Hmm.
but like there's no like like I have no proper framework for what that's really
Hmm.
like to not just be able to be a teacher for them, but like to be the responsible party, to be the one that's always there to answer their questions when they're scared and all that. Like, that's a crazy idea for me to watch this little monkey turn into a
Yeah.
human being. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
amazing. Nah, my hat tips off to you because if I'm not mistaken, like you're really soon for a second one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Any day now. I mean,
My gosh.
yeah, my wife is full term right now, so yeah, it could happen any day. So I still need to get the my bag all packed, like with snacks and stuff, because man, we're not supposed to leave the hospital. I guess these days, once you're there,
Hmm.
until you check out, of course, you're there forever. They don't let you leave. Um, so I need to bring like snacks and a book, something,
Yeah.
to and also make sure we have everything for the baby and all that. So yeah, having a boy, we haven't quite nailed down, or we think we have a name, but we want to keep it a surprise.
Sure.
um but yeah, so I'm super excited. That's another thing too. Yeah, I feel like I'm, even though she's only a baby, but I feel like, oh, okay, well, uh, okay, now I have to think about being a dad to a boy, being a,
Yeah.
like I'm gonna have a boy now, so that's like another adjustment. So it's always something new.
Yeah, no, for
Yeah,
sure. But keeps life exciting, keeps it spicy, as my
yeah.
girlfriend would say. And and that's no, that's awesome, man. Um, and as far as music is concerned, that's something that I really do miss with you. I was thinking about that last night, kind of preparing in my head for
Hmm.
some topics to talk with you about, and I'm like, damn, like we used to play music all the time, and then like one day, just because life moves on and we have to, we have to part a little bit for college and everything, and that just comes to an abrupt halt.
Yeah.
And I still, it's funny, and I'm sure you're always very humble about it, but like I still tell people stories about this like ridiculously insane guitarist that I knew from back in high school. And like I still tell stories about like the shit that she would play, and I'm like, you have no idea, this kid was like from middle school to high school like a phenom overnight. And um and it's really cool that you were able to pursue that, you know what I mean, like afterward, like going through school, getting your degree, now you're a composer, you're working on music for trailers and stuff like that. That's really
Hmm.
cool, like you got to stay in
Yeah.
that world.
Yeah. No, I mean, first of all, yeah, like we play music together as kids, and I've been thinking about this a lot recently, but that's such a so that's such a deep room in my cosmic happy house. Like that, to have like childhood memories of playing music with friends. I hope that everybody has that opportunity,
I
and
agree.
it's such a way to connect um, with with other human beings, and have like it's and have fun. I mean, we use music to learn the ABCs. I mean, I know all 50 states in ABC order because I learned it to a song when I was a kid.
Yep.
Um, and like music is, and specifically rhythm, is such an important part of our our existence as humans. Not just me because I'm a musician, but rhythm is such a foundational part of everything we do. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool. It's so cool. Like I remember, dude, you had the Slipknot, the Joey Jordison drum set.
Yeah.
I thought that was badass. And it was always really fun to play music with you because we didn't like we cared, but it wasn't like oh, I gotta like pay bills right now, or like I have to I'm trying to find a trajectory for my career, or I don't know. It was like a really fun playing in a hot garage with a smelly dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, dude, and a wasp that
Yeah.
would occasionally come and attack me, and of course I would scream. And I was in that phase called puberty where your voice is changing, and so I man when I it was the a terrifying like shriek from a 14-year-old kid who had like awkwardly long hair and braces. So
Yeah.
it was just fun and awkward, man, and I
That's
love that.
fantastic. That's so
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, no,
yeah.
those are awesome memories, man. And you're right. There's something really special about making music, not because there's any kind of trajectory, like you said. It's really just for the freedom to create and to express yourself, through your music. And I've always found, like you were saying, rhythm being so fundamental in life. And because like I'm actually in the middle of creating a mini series on uh, uh, hermetic principles, which is a basis in philosophy. And one of the principles is on rhythm and how it pervades our life and how important it is to recognize it and to be able to ride that wave of rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like for me, like as a percussionist, it's been, you know, so obviously fundamental for me, being able to feel that and how that kind of translates into your life. You're 100% right. And now, you know, I abandoned music for a while. You know, right out of high school, went straight into college. That was probably the worst thing in the world for me. I couldn't stand college. I really hated it. Um, and through that, like the ebb and flow of emotions that kind of come with that level of just like uncertainty and anxiety that comes with that kind of lifestyle. I like I said, I completely had abandoned it, um, and thought to myself, well, you know, that was a kid thing, you know, like being able to play music like that, that was for kids, and I've got to figure out the future and everything else. And there
Mm-hmm.
was like the biggest hole in my life. Like I can't even speak to how vast the abyss was. It was an
Yeah.
absolute endless pit, where like I was, you know, consistently trying to fill it with different things, and we can talk about that later. But um, and for me, it was crazy coming back to it, right? So like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm out of school, I'm teaching martial arts. It wasn't even until after I had opened my own martial arts school, and um, you know, I had decided, I'm like, you know, I I had picked up, this is probably in 2017. Yeah. I had picked up an old Tool album, and I'm just listening, and
Love
I'm just like,
Tool.
yeah, dude, I love Tool. Like, that's
Yeah.
their life for me. But I was listening to the album Lateralis, and and that was like Danny Carey for me is probably the best drummer for me. There
Mm-hmm.
are technically maybe better drummers that do some crazy choppy stuff, but that man
He's
is,
tasteful. He's tasteful.
yeah, he's
Like
incredible. And
everything has a purpose. Yeah.
yes,
And
no,
specifically with them, they have like a pattern, very mathematical, pattern based stuff. Not
yes,
pattern based, but Fibonacci stuff. So yeah, of course, very
no,
very
exactly.
intentional.
It's very intentional. And listening to that album again, I was like, holy crap, man. Like
Mm,
it sparked this little fire. I'm like, holy crap, I missed this. I need to do this again. And so I just set out. I managed to get a drum set and started playing for myself, and one thing after another. Now, you know, I'm in a band, which
mm.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm almost 30, and I had never expected that I was gonna be in another band.
Hey,
Um,
yeah, the band's back together.
yeah, it's crazy. It
It's
was
so
crazy how
funny.
it worked.
Yeah.
But no, I feel you. Like now that, you know, despite everything else that's happening in the world, you know, like my business is essentially under fire because of COVID, because
Yeah, man.
people are scared to be around each other and things like that. And
Mm,
you know, the rest of the world's falling apart. Our economy's taking big hits over it. You know, the healthcare system's taking big hits over it. It's dramatically affecting the political climate. Like all this stuff's
yeah.
happening, but I have my music back, and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that keeps me moving. And it's really cool how that works, you know?
Yeah. It it is the same thing with me. Like I write music for trailers, or I try to, and uh, so most of that is on the computer. And yeah, I'll pick up a violin and I'll play something, or the guitar, or some random instrument laying around, or like a doorknob or whatever to make what I'm making. But to sit down and play the guitar, I play the classical guitar right now, um, which is the instrument that I played through college and high school. Um, and I just sit down and try to play through some Bach or an old piece that I like, a flamenco piece, um, is such a different part of my musical mind. Um, there's also just like playing around. Like I would detune the guitar to be an open tuning, so it just sounds good whatever you play, and I would just noodle around, mindless, like not mindlessly but mindfully, and just do that for like 30 minutes, without any trouble. Like I'm kind of addicted to my phone, but when I play the guitar, I could totally just be in that space for an extended period of time. Um, it's such an important, I'm finding, daily practice, just like meditating, or exercising, getting your lungs going, which is super important. Um, Getting that part of my mind to just go and just wander is also critical, to the maintenance or the development or the enrichment of my consciousness, which also in effect is good for everybody else. I mean, I believe that we're all kind of connected, and so if I'm taking care of those things that I need, just like you found that doing music was good for you, and connecting your soul, um, it's gonna reach out to other people. And so it's not just it's almost like a religion to me, like a belief that doing these things like meditation and music, and developing ways to love ourselves, it will, because it will ultimately affect others.
I agree.
I kind of wandered off there. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But I just have been I've been thinking about music, and not in a deeper way than I think I usually do. And I think because, yeah, with the COVID stuff, um, maybe that helped me realize, how much I missed concerts. Or
Mm-hmm.
also, man, I lived in Nashville for 8 years. I was there when I was in college, and there was so much music everywhere, and so much free music, so many opportunities to be involved in music.
Yeah.
I helped organize concerts in people's homes, and it
That's
wasn't like we
cool.
didn't make a profit off of it. We totally like broke even. We had some sponsors, but it was like a cheap way to have really good musical experiences in an intimate manner. And man, that those type of things, that was just like a small thing, but those type of things happening in a city really builds community. um and it, so anyways, like, yeah, I not being able to, like, first of all, not being in Nashville, where there's so much of that happening, and also not being able to go to concerts right now, wherever you are, wherever I'm in Tampa, but in Tampa, it made me think about, wow, music is such an important thing. It's such a
Yeah.
valuable thing, when our communication now is so limited. Even though, like, we have Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these platforms, online, which run on an algorithm, our communication is very limited. It's usually short, and it's usually, polar. Uh, and
Very.
it's hard to have, like, that is a form of communication, that is gotten, like, is very overused, I think, right now. I think that, other forms like music, I think we also forget music is a form of communication. It's a
Mm-hmm.
very vivid, a very well, abstract. It's not so, ones and zeros,
Mm-mm.
and not really formed by one algorithms, like the
It's
ones that
very
we have on.
emotional.
It's very emotional, yeah. And it connects to that deeper part of our soul. So yeah,
Yep.
man, we got to keep the music going, well, no matter what you do. And like I'm saying, rhythm's fundamental. I wish that everybody was able to have some sort of rhythmic component, whether it's dancing, whether it's some sort of movement, whether it's picking up a random instrument, or an instrument that you haven't played in a long time. Do it. It's probably going to help,
Yeah,
and it's probably going to make people love each other more, and starting with yourselves. Yeah,
I
yeah.
agree.
Anyways, I just went on
No, you're good,
long
man. I
thing.
love it. I love it. It's good. And I agree 100%. I honestly, so beyond just music, I feel like the arts and as a whole are
Mm,
the I feel like arts are a strong universal language that can connect people from different cultures and different parts of life, and and can communicate things that words really can't. Because sometimes you can be at a loss for communicating a feeling that you have with words. You can circle and circle and circle around what you're trying to explain, but never really hit it. But then you can pick up your instrument and you can play what you're feeling, and immediately everyone in the room, as long as it's authentic, can usually feel what it is you're
mm,
trying to get across. Or a painter picking up their paintbrush and their colors, and just even if it's not some super thought out painting or anything like that, but really just being able to get the right colors that communicate to what they're feeling onto their canvas, and bringing it into just some shapes that communicate those same feelings. Like if, for example, I'm anxious and I'm stressed and everything else, and I might be using a lot of very bold blues and reds with a lot of angular colors.
mm,
On the drums, I might be doing a lot of double bass and crazy crap with, I mean, like, because that's what
mm.
I'm feeling. and
Yeah.
um and so it just kind of goes across that spectrum of what we call art. And it's so important, like you're saying, that everybody finds that kind of an outlet. And really, I think in a perfect world, or as close to as we can get it, I think everybody should dabble in every form of art that they can get their hands on.
Yeah.
um
Lay some crayons on the table,
yeah,
and some paper. Like make it really convenient for you, and like just like set aside 5 minutes. Five
it
minutes.
really
Scribble.
it's really that. I was talking to a friend of mine who told me that as a kid he would draw comics, and
Hmm.
he'd make up a story and he'd just go to town and illustrate his own comic. And I'm like, dude, why don't you do that anymore? And he told me, well, it's for kids. And I'm like, no, it's not for kids. There are people
Hmm.
making hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that, in
Oh yeah.
in a studio
Oh yeah.
somewhere. So, like, get to it. Like, even if it's just for
Yeah.
yourself, it's not for kids. It's an expression of yourself.
Yeah.
And we live in such a weird way in society where we really don't allow ourselves to express. Everything we do is about fitting a certain status quo, and about moving forward like you're supposed to. You have to get
Hmm.
A, B, and C done. You have to, and we kind of get programmed into fitting into like our own forms of entertainment. And like, I think everybody in America, for the most part, as a majority, they after they're done with their workday,
Hmm.
they come
Yeah.
home, they might eat something, and then they're going to sit down to some Netflix. You know what I mean? They're going to
Yeah.
binge
Yeah.
watch a show. And I'm not saying I'm not guilty of that myself,
Hmm.
but um, but I find that we lose our self-expression that way, and we
Yeah.
just become
Totally.
complete consumers, when in reality we need to be the creators, even for ourselves. You know what I mean? Just for our own
Yes.
sake.
Yeah.
But
Daily practice. That's. I think that's so important. I mean, I am that so bad at it too. Like I am terrible at it because I just I feel like I get stuck in like bad habits really easily. And I think there's a lot that contributes to that. I mean, like having a phone, a smartphone, that's like,
yeah,
oh, that is a creativity killer for me. Uh, but damn, uh, I was gonna I was gonna say, like, you're talking about art. You're talking about like drawing and painting and all that. It's like our modern day cave drawings. like the our ability to, as human beings, to have an idea, and like an idea, some, like, first of all, the fact that we're able to have language and to communicate in languages is huge. That's a huge thing. But another step is to be able to to make abstract forms, and that deepens our communication with each other. It's that, yeah, man, that's such an important thing. I don't know, I feel like an echo chamber. um I feel
Yeah.
the totally the same way. I seriously, I think, I mean, when I was in college, I took a class called psychology and music, and it was a pretty basic overview of just that topic. But one of the things we talked more in depth about was music therapy, and how music therapy is a very successful practice, and it helps people who are suffering from all sorts of things like Alzheimer's, depression. Um, I mean, medically, we are understanding how important music is, and I mean, culturally, we know that too. Um, yeah, I feel like that's gonna that's gonna be the thing that one of the things that gets us through this,
I
through
agree.
this depression, man, because uh, it's gonna affect everybody. I think everybody's gonna be suffering from some sort of depression.
Yep.
Um, so we're gonna have to infiltrate the culture with art and music, dancing, all those things. That's a fun
Absolutely.
way to recover.
Dude, absolutely. I know. I agree tenfold on that. Um, it's
Ritual. That would be our ritual. That would be our new religion, or not new, but just to be our ritual,
yeah.
uh,
Well, ritual
which
is
is
so
what we're missing
important.
right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. Like, um, so first, like regarding the therapy thing, it's amazing. Like, I'm sure you have as well. I've walked into museums before, art museums specifically, and standing in front of a piece that genuinely moves you, where like it's so intense that you can't help to be brought to an intense emotion
Hmm.
from it. And if that's not evidence of art's power over us, I don't know what is. And so I agree. I remember sitting I remember sitting in a jazz club once, and there was a sax guy, and he was taking his little solo section, and I
Hmm.
swear to God, like I I was in tears over it. It was so powerful. Like, I weren't even sad
Hmm.
tears. I was just moved so strongly by his solo
Yeah.
piece. And I was
Yeah.
like I left there like almost giddy. I felt so good. And it was a result of just allowing myself to be immersed in the music,
Yeah.
and to allow him to speak to the crowd. You know what I mean? That like that's it's so huge. And so I feel you on being able to use music therapeutically. you know
Yeah.
um when your new or your band's new album comes out, and you're so excited
Uh-huh.
and you're amped up, and you hear the first track hits, and it's solid, and it's powerful, and it sets the entire day on a good trajectory.
Yeah.
And so with
Yeah.
more music in life, in your life, I think everybody could lift their spirits, especially through these kind of times.
Yeah. Um, yeah. That's another thing. It's like I'm gonna try to tangent to something
Sure.
um, a little bit related, but alienation. That's another word that I keep thinking of, especially now, what's going
Mm-hmm.
on. And uh, it's there are a lot of alienating forces going on. I mean, both physically, but also like politically. I feel like no matter which way you are, you lean in this tempest. Um,
Good word.
there is definitely alienation going on, no matter who you are, unless you are in the very limited political class. We're very limited with alienated. I feel like from our communication, because a lot of it is through social media. Um, but man, dude, I was thinking about billionaires, and how alienating it must be to be a billionaire. Because, dude, think about like if I had a if I had like just all of a sudden a shit ton of money, like over $50 billion, I would like be so afraid that people would be coming for me, or people would try to form relationships, to take
Hmm.
advantage of my money. I would be uh, it would immediately alienate me from everybody, even with good intentions. But I feel like having billions and billions of so much money, um, when right now everybody is, poor, that's got to be such a alienating thing.
Yep.
Um, and also being poor is alienating too, because you don't really get to, like, maybe it'd be nice for everybody to be able to travel and to go to the damn, man, I went on a road trip to the all these national parks,
Hmm.
um, and and I just felt like so much love, even more love for the like this country, um, like specifically that I had that ability to go to like the Grand Canyon. That's not even it. The Glacier National Park, that was one of the coolest ones. But man, if you're poor, it's so hard. It's so much harder to go and do those things. But man,
Absolutely.
I feel like economically we're alienated from each other. But dude, it's almost comical to think about billionaires, because they got to be in a completely different world.
Yeah, totally.
Like that, yeah.
You think of,
That's
like the Elon Musks of the world and
oh
what
my
that looks
god,
like
dude.
for them,
Yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, uh,
I mean, to be honest, I would also, um like anybody, like the like I feel like I am um uh trying to be self-aware and trying to deepen my soul. But man, if I'm saying that if I had $1 billion, I would probably be that way too.
yeah.
Like it's just like a automatic thing, I think.
Well, it's a culture shift.
Yeah.
Culture is one of those ideas that has pervaded my mind for a while. Like I can't really shake everything kind of circling back to a culture conversation for myself because um, we're dealing with the intense, like extremely intense racial situation that we're in right now,
Hmm.
and there's people on all sides of the argument, and most of the time it ends up very racial with the way that people discuss it. And I try to explain, I'm like, you don't understand, it's a cultural difference, like people's behavior being a certain way, whether you're radical to wanting to burn down neighborhoods or you're radical to wanting to send in the military and to crush them. Whichever side of the fence you're on, it's a cultural difference. It's not a racial issue where, like, people like to make it out to be. And everybody creates the racial issue and make turns the cultural issue into a racial issue. And of course, I'm not saying that racism doesn't exist, but what I'm saying is um, everything that we experience in life, this situation in our country aside, everything we experience in life is from the lens of the culture we kind of attribute ourselves to. And so, you come into billions of dollars all of a sudden, and you're going to naturally, like, and not even intentionally, but it's instinctive, you're going to naturally start to take on to yourself the attributes of others in that culture. You know what I mean? It's inevitable. You know what I mean? Some guy hits the lottery and he goes from being the really casual Joe Schmo nice guy that everybody knew, the guy that everyone sees on Sunday at church, to the new millionaire snob who only does really rich guy things and thinks that he's too good to hang out with his old buddies now. It's really
Yeah.
natural for things like that to happen.
Yeah.
It's I can't even imagine what that type of lifestyle must feel like. Like you said, it's so alienating to be a
Hmm.
part of that culture all of a sudden. Um,
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna. Okay, I feel like I'm gonna have to really be be uh be super in tuned with this, because I think we are hitting a very hot topic,
yeah,
which is really interesting. I totally agree um, with the alienation of culture. I think there's a deep um, a deep truth happening where um, okay, I think one of the big problems going on is you have a lot of um, conflict and confusion happening um, on all levels, kind of simultaneously. And it's important to um, understand the deeper cause of things. So um, racism is totally a thing, and it is
absolutely.
seen uh, systemically, which it, as a country, with especially with like Hollywood and with the way we digest news, and just we've come to realize that having characters in our stories is a really good marketing thing. And there
Hmm.
are a lot of characters in this country specifically that are very uh, problematic and are destructive in this story. But what is behind that is a system. And when we are very pressed to not just alienate each other from this conversation, but to form multiple different little. Um, I'm going to backtrack.
Okay.
So we have characters. Um, we have to think about systems. So we have to acknowledge that we had a system of slavery that was there for. Um, it wasn't just there because because there was people who hated black people or people from Africa. It was there because there was an economic advantage, and it always has to come back to that, to the system. Um, just and I think and that's and I mean Martin Luther King Jr. Like that was one of the big things with him is he talked about the economic struggles, not just of black people but white people too, and of the importance that education, the importance of healthcare, the importance of of music, man, of all these things that allow us to be the person we are, and the ability to have to understand, to be with your family first of all, to not have your father or your mother or your brother separated from you because you were shipped over here. I mean that basic thing, um, not having that causes so much trauma, generational trauma, and I'm afraid, man, we haven't really recovered from that. I feel like we've kind of our economic system was very profitable for decades, and I think that alienation caused a lot of people, and especially a lot of leaders, to forget about some of the basic things that we need that end up crushing us and keeping us from having love. And also, I mean, there's the point of with like protests and stuff. Um, but if if there is no, if we are alienated from the political process, right? Like say, like, we acknowledge we're all kind of struggling, and more, some people more than others. um and if there is no if there is so much alienation in the political system, which seems to be the only way through real change, um, then it's such a, I mean, it's such, you have to be so desperate. Like that's the thing. That's the thing I'm getting at, is that the systems we have um, are alienating, and and it causes so much conflict. Um, and when we have these type of issues, then it's hard to have conversations about the things we want. Okay, okay, utopia. Like it's very hard right now to imagine um, the reality, to hold that reality of we could have utopia. Everybody could be happy, or everybody could be like, we could be set. Like we could be able to have a culture where we have music, and we have the Olympics, and we have like concerts and art, and we have all these wonderful things. We have wrestling, and we have um, community gardens. All these things. It's hard to imagine that world when we have terrible shit happening. And
Hmm.
I firmly believe that if we don't take care of the terrible, destructive shit that's happening, like starving kids, like if we can't take care of that, if we can't take care of starving kids, um, then it's going to be that's gonna create generations of trauma. It's going to be very hard to have things that we love, like I don't know, those rituals, man. The like getting together and fucking like hanging out on the beach and with your friends and family, and I don't know, um, like the I think of it, those cosmic campfire times.
Yeah.
That's those are the things that's why we're here. Those are that we want to have those cosmic campfire times. Like, dude, we the creation of this earth, the all these elements coming together, and like you have little portals of consciousness, like you have fish, and you have all these reptiles and dinosaurs and all these creatures, and then now, and we have human beings, and we could feel each other's feelings, and we are like deeply like connected in each other. Like we have come from the galaxies exploding to each other, and
Hmm.
we should like, this is like, oh my god, dude, the fact that we are conscious of this time, I mean, some would say that is a tragedy, but it is an opportunity to come together. And like that is, we're not I don't believe we're supposed to be isolated beings.
No,
I truly believe
I
that
agree.
in our struggles, and in our celebrations, and our love, uh, um, like we should, our laws should be like a cord that binds love and truth, um, and like uplifting fun, like fun, and fulfillment, like all those things. But it's not like that right now, and so it just makes it uh,
It does.
hard to like when you have I don't know, like a whole class of people who are struggling, and yeah, you have Ghislaine Maxwell, who like has her own currency, which is like secrets from government, you know, from leaders and people, and
Yeah,
you know, like that's such a, you can't have, it's hard to have the good times when you have that
I
on
agree.
a basic level.
I agree. And I would honestly, I would interject and say that um all of it, like even going back to, so like uh when you originally started, we were still talking kind of a little bit about the racism. Ultimately, like all of those different issues that we run into, I keep, like I said, I always circle back to it's a cultural issue. Because like if you take, for example, um, you take a multicultural tribe, or racial tribe. So you have, maybe a Central American, um, typical, like tanned skin and, family over here. You have a very Northern European white family over here. You have your typical African family over here. Um, and assuming they can all communicate well enough, and they all contribute to their community, their kids grow up not thinking anything different about race other than, oh, you're a little more tan than I am. There's nothing inherently racist about
Mm.
us, right? We're not born racist. We're taught racism. It's a cultural
Yeah,
thing.
totally.
And
Yes.
and so one of the issues that I run into is trying to make people understand that while you have to acknowledge racism, it's very strong in our society, and we need
Um,
to attack it at a systemic level. But it's important to understand that you can't defeat racism with a reverse racism, and you can't defeat racism by making it the only conversation. Because the
yeah.
reality is, if everything comes down to we need equality against, we need equality and we need to squash racism. If that's the narrative, then we're going to continue thinking about racism.
Yeah.
The narrative needs to be everybody needs to be equality, period.
Yeah.
And obviously, again, we need to still tackle racism. And I'm not a politician. I'm not a lifelong politician. I don't understand. I don't have maybe the experience to talk on how to do that. But it's necessary, I think, for everyone to understand that it's more important that we recognize that it comes down to nobody needs to be taught, and no one needs to see that there are lesser people. At a certain point, you need to educate people on our history, which of course brings up the discussion of racism. But by no means is it I think appropriate to carry any of those things in when we so let me backtrack for a second. When a little kid first gets the idea that another group of people is bad or is dangerous, that usually comes from mom or dad telling him, hey, watch out for that person over there. Why, mom? Why,
Yeah.
dad?
It's
And
often
mom and
subtle
dad,
too.
it is right, and it's
Yeah.
it's always in a very innocent kind of way,
Yeah.
right? Like it's dad's walking with his son, and he grabs his son and he just pulls him a little closer when a certain group of people walk
Mm.
by,
Yeah.
right? Or mom's walking with her kid, and as this black guy walks by, she clutches her purse a little tighter to her body and grabs her kid's
Mm.
hand, and the
Yeah.
kid recognizes that behavior, and even without words is going to start associating that I see that
Mm.
different kind of person, and now mom gets scared, dad gets scared, and we need to. And so that kind of behavior, unfortunately, is a taught kind of thing. That's very that's generational.
Yeah.
And the other part of it, though, that's an issue, and this is where I think a lot of people still don't have they're still not having the right kinds of discussions. That's also a media issue, not just
Yes, totally.
news media, but also our like our movies, our
Mm.
TV shows, and things like that. And I'm all about satire. I'm all about laughing at things and making jokes, but um, under the right context. And unfortunately, we live in a time where we have all these awesome tools that are so powerful and so beautiful. We have the internet.
Mm.
We have these smartphones that we keep in our pockets that allow us to reach out and to have access to anything and everything that we want. But equally, that also creates the echo chamber where algorithmically it's how marketing's done
Yeah.
nowadays. So yeah,
Marketing.
and
Exactly.
so if I'm predisposed to be a little racist and I'm looking up these certain kinds of videos, well, those algorithms are going to pick up other videos,
Mm.
and they're going to make sure that it keeps funneling that to me, because it's all about the
Yeah.
click, it's all about the continued views.
Yeah.
And so we need to honestly, like, we're a society that I think, you're talking about a utopia. I think we're a society that needs to detach completely from our social media. Um,
Mm.
and it's, and I know that's, some people are like, well, that's my only way to communicate with my family or my, whatever.
No, it's
That's,
not.
it's not. Exactly. You're wrong. We need to detach from social media. We need to detach from the TV screen. We need to stop watching the news all the time. Like, I
Mm.
know we need to know what's happening in the world, but really, let's be real for a second.
Yeah.
As a kid, the world was your neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying you shouldn't know about what's happening in the rest of the world, but
Yeah.
I think detaching for a little bit to kind of get back to a place of community and
Mm-hmm.
realizing the love for one another and for
Yeah.
having each other around around us.
Mm-hmm.
I think that can kind of help squash some of those negative notions to racism and things like that. And I know that sounds
Yeah.
super hippy dippy, but
No, no, dude. I agree. It is hippy dippy, and I agree with that. Like it's like my thing right now, and I'm doing a terrible job at it. I mean, I think yeah, like I've only done this to a couple people so far, but man, mailing letters to people. Like first of all, I feel like that's a win-win-win all around because like just try to like write first of all, writing by hand is sometimes a foreign thing to people,
yeah,
because we're used to typing now. But writing by hand, the way when I do it, I think differently. It is a physical it is a physical uh, thing that causes my brain when I'm. It's like it's a different pathway. It enters.
hmm
It's like yeah, it's just a different pathway. And you're able to communicate directly with somebody. You're not talking to a whole audience of whoever's on your friends list, whoever's on your MySpace, uh, and it's like when somebody sees, it's like hearing your voice. Like when somebody sees your handwriting, it's like oh, it's like a little piece of them because it is specific to that person.
yeah,
It's an amazing way to connect. I think that is I have so much faith in that mode of communication. That is a way. Yeah, we don't have to talk about politics too. Like if you go on Facebook, you're going to see a lot of those things. You're going to see a lot of the heated things because that's what people are. That's the marketing thing that gets people to communicate, and then you have ads, and then it's just a like we're not the customers on Facebook. Just to let you know, we're data points, and
yep,
we are, you know, the advertisers are the customers, I guess. But yeah, it is a we need to utilize different platforms of communication. And yeah, I think the writing letters is a good one. Yeah, unplugging is so important too, because think about it, like yeah, making sure like along with our like daily practice of like for our consciousness for um we we have to make sure that we are unplugging. Um, it's not going to be easy, and I'm not saying to do it all together, but like I have a hard time doing that. I tried to do it for a month, and I think I got maybe a week or a couple weeks, and I went
yeah,
right back on. I don't even think it was that long. Um, and I mean, there was like all the protests and rioting and stuff going on. The George Floyd murder that happened. And I was like, oh, shit's getting real, and I need to know like what's going on. So I got back online, and I just been like having a terrible love hate relationship with social media.
yep,
Even though I feel like I don't post that much, it's just going on and saying, "Oh, who did Joe Biden pick as his VP? What happened? Oh my God, that dude, that Beirut explosion was insane.
dude,
I mean, that
unreal,
was, and that's the thing. It's so hard too to shock us these days. Like it took like a nuclear bomb going off in Beirut to like I feel like oh that's like I'm a like I have the deepest sadness for that situation. But
hmm
I mean, we are so tied to spectacle. It's like that is that is what we consume. That
yeah,
is what I consume. I consume spectacle, and what's on. Like we have gotten so bad at creating spectacle that violence has become that spectacle for us.
yeah. Well,
And
it's like that song "Vicarious" by Tool.
oh yeah, yes, of
You
course,
know,
that's a good
like
one.
we're so stuck in that's what we need and that's what we look for. We need that association through the TV to captivate us, and it needs to be the next level. of violence or the next level of shock and awe, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how our brains work at this point. And we've programmed it that way, or we've allowed it to be programmed that way, I should say. Um,
I just wish that we would be fair and have like yeah the news and stuff. There's so much violence and so much spectacle, but they rarely show the actual like wars and stuff like that, the stuff
mhm,
that is going on, which are horrendous. They rarely show what's happening in Syria or what's happening uh, in Yemen. Um, but but I mean, we could see everything else. I mean, we could see like all sorts of crazy stuff online. That's a spectacle that they wanted us to see. Um,
yeah, well, it's a business.
yeah,
It's all about the ratings
yeah,
and whatever they can do. Um, so like, if they did cover a war, um, they get good ratings for a day, and then
yeah,
because the war continues and it's not like there's an
mm,
explosion every single day that's bigger
yeah,
than the next, they have to take it to a different story, and it's really sad because, like I said, it's a business now. It's news is not it's not just journalism. It's about making, getting the viewers so that you get more commercial time, so that you
yeah,
get more ad dollars pumped
yeah.
into your company.
So
It's
the solution, man, it's totally what we're talking about: unplugging and different modes of communication, music, those things. I think we have to reconnect with each other.
I agree.
That's exactly what we need to do.
No, I agree. Um, so on a totally different topic, one of the things, oh, sorry if you hear the meowing, the cat is like, let me
No,
in.
oh yeah, I hear it now. That's beautiful.
Um, but um, but anyway, totally different topic, but I've sensed, and I want to talk to you about it just because I want to know kind of what you feel. And I have a good idea now after much of this conversation, but you and I both went to um, a Christian school for a long period of time.
Yes.
And to one degree or another, as I'm sure it always fluctuated, with you as it did with me, but to one degree or another, we were very convicted in that space for a very long time. And then, you can call it the radical liberalization of college life, or you can call it whatever you want. But it seemed like we both took a fork away from and kind
Hmm.
of discovered new things. I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
a little bit about what that process was like for you, and like
Yeah.
what was it that kind of steered the boat in a different direction for you?
Oh, I love this topic. So yeah, we went to a private Christian school, and it was I would say it was like more like non-denominational, maybe Baptist. I don't know. It wasn't like a Catholic school, but we did have chapel like every week, and we were taught the Truth Project, um, which was tried to get us to understand the conflicting culture to our to at the time our belief system and how to cope with that, and especially because we're going to go to college and teachers are going to talk about evolution and I don't know, people are going to be having sex and stuff, and they need to get prepared for that culture,
Yeah.
scary thing. But really, it was. I mean, when I was in college, I actually I went to. I felt so okay. Backing up, when I was middle school and high school, I went to church. I think more than my parents did. Yeah, definitely more. And I was uh, pretty like I loved learning about Christianity and learning about Jesus and like the theology, and it's like a deep part of my consciousness, um, and my soul, and when I was in college I explored that even further, and I went to different churches. I went to all sorts of denominations. I went to even a Pentecostal church where they that was my first experience being around people who were speaking in tongues. um, all sorts of different ways of worshiping. And ultimately, I found myself, I went to the Catholic Church, and then I really fell in love with the Greek Orthodox Church. Um, and I felt, and that was, I think, my exploration into Christianity, um, found a very good home at the Orthodox Church because it fulfilled so much of what I was looking for. I feel like there was like this sense of ritual, this sense of the how not just understanding that Jesus is your Lord and Savior and don't do this and that, but the actual like the ritual of worship, like having two choirs, one speaking in Greek or chanting, one is a Western choir, which is tradition, like a just like like classical music, and then the other is chanting a drone where you have the priest who's also chanting. So three different groups of people singing at the same time, and then you have the instance, and you have all the icons, and everything had significant meaning. And everything you did, like before Easter, you would fast, and you would pray more and in a certain way. But all of that facilitated a deeper experience, a deeper spiritual, uh, deeper experience and consciousness, and into something beyond myself. And that's what I think that was like I reached my destination. I found that is what um that mode was what was what I was looking for. And I even became Greek Orthodox. This was after college. After college too. I was like 23, 22, I think 23, and I converted to the Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, and I even chanted, um and um like I was very much in. I went through, and then I let go of the balloon. That was kind of like what it was for me, because I feel like I completed a chapter of my spiritual journey, and this one, and I became comfortable, and not comfortable, but I became um uh not just okay, but um like not knowing, like the true meaning of agnosticism, like being okay with not knowing, let go of that balloon. You don't have to hold on to that balloon. Okay, like you have to understand, uh like the idea that, I mean, it's just funny to think about, um telling a kid that masturbation is like gonna send you to hell, or is like it is like a sinful thing, and you can't masturbate and you can't have sex until marriage. Try to like
Yeah.
or like I'm not saying that is what my experience in the Catholic Church, but that's specific, or the Orthodox Church, but that was specifically, like, I remember having those conversations with people when I was in like high school and middle school, and we would have like, you know there's like all sorts of, it's like it the yeah, it was such a bizarre thing. However, there are certain things that I took from reading the Christian Bible that really deepened, really like facilitated a spiritual journey. And I feel like that's something that I'm very lucky for, that I was able to get that. Like, some people will go to church and read the Bible, and they will take terrible things from it, and it will be a twisted mess. And I know people who read the Bible every day, and but they also are consuming and all sorts of other things along with that too, and it has become a very bizarre and alienated ideology from, I think, from the teachings of Jesus. But anyways, I've moved from that. I don't practice Christianity, but I still have like a spiritual, a journey, I feel like.
Right
um,
on.
yeah. And I do feel like we need to have, um, I would love to have a religion that is based, that is like the combination of love and science. Um, like
I think that's what it's
that
supposed
could
to
be
be.
awesome. Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes like you will have. I think this is what happens too. Um, like there will be significant like a significant thing that happens um, to a group of people or to a person. Like you may be, they may reach enlightenment. They may have, they may lose their ego. They may like come to that place, and and by doing that, you don't stay there. I mean, most of the time, you like it's like rare to get there, and when you do, you don't stay there. It's in a different time. It's like it is totally outside of yourself. But
Yeah.
what you do is you try to capture that and try to facilitate a life and a practice where you can remember it. And I think that's what a lot of religion is there was this there was this amazing like deep um like dude like there's so much beautiful inspirational um heavenly hellish crazy stuff that comes from religion, and some wonderful things, and of course it is used in all that vehicle, the crust or the earthly shape of it, um, is like a skeleton that just gets passed around through history. So um, and used in different ways. But that moment, that the origin or um, whatever, when that flower bloomed, um, like that is, I, there was something there. Like there was something to
Something to
like,
inspire
I
it.
don't know. Yeah, like Jesus was killed by the Roman Empire, and then the Roman Empire took that religion or took whatever that was. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not. It's like it's the same thing that happens in every empire. It is a religion will get taken over and used in different ways, and of course, marketing is such a thing in this country, in this culture, that yeah, our Christianity has been like it is cross. It is not Protestant. U.S. Protestantism is a very different thing than Protestantism was after the Reformation, um, and
Absolutely.
it's tied to consumption, and it's tied to politics, and it has become a marketing. It is a and it's also a complicated thing too, because there are pastors and preachers and all sorts of people who are Christians who go into it with good intentions, and may still have. And I'm not saying everybody who's Christian falls into this category, but the system, just like what we're talking about now, it's the system, the machine that everything gets fed through, creates a very distorted thing that from its origin.
Hmm.
Everything is going through a process all the time, and so anyways, I digress. I feel like I
All good. So,
need a break.
no, you're good. So you went to
Sometimes I feel
school.
like Joe Biden when I talk. I'm like, I need, okay, that's enough. I just love that. I love that. I love the timing out. Okay, I'm done. My wife, when I have a conversation, especially about this stuff, she found that she has to say, okay, 5 seconds, and I have to like wrap it up in 5 seconds.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah,
Um, but no, so okay, so to get the story straight, you went to
mhm.
school. Coming out of school, you found Greek Orthodoxy. You kind of fell in love with it. It was the order and the ritual that you felt you needed for your religion, and then coming through that, you decided. I like the analogy. You let go of the balloon,
Yeah,
and now you're just kind of floating in a sea of, for lack of better terms, spirituality, understanding that there is something there. You have no definition for it exactly, but you know what it feels like, so to speak.
yeah, yeah. And the other thing that's important too that I realized was the experience. Like there are some things that we could learn through like reading a book, which is also an experience. The actual like reading it through a book, it's a different way to get knowledge. But like an actual spiritual experience is something that you have to experience. It's very hard to learn. Like I could learn about the practices of Greek, being a Greek Orthodox, or some of the things that they do, or what this means and that means. But to actually experience something is um, was very important to me, and that goes along with like um, like now. I don't know. Like that's why like I go back like some sort of daily practice or some sort of practice is important.
Mhm.
Because if you're just like thinking about spirituality and not trying to experience it, I don't know. That's like I mean, this is from the but like action faith without actions is dead. Like that is not like your like my spiritual beliefs must have some sort of action as well.
Well,
So I don't know.
absolutely. In So kind of what you were describing, you were saying that like a perfect religion would be something that mixes the spiritual with the scientific. Um,
The love and science.
love and science. There you go.
Yeah, or that.
Um,
Yeah,
and,
same kind of whatever. One of those things.
yeah, no, I understand. And what you're kind of describing, whether it's intentional or not, you're kind of describing the spiritual alchemy in a sense. What the alchemists of old, what we base our understanding of alchemy on, what they used to do, and that was they based it all in science. Um, Everything had a ritual to it, and it was a tested ritual. It wasn't like like, oh well, this tribe does it this way and that tribe does it this way, but instead they would really vet their practices to the point that they could almost to like almost like ingredients in making a cake. They could reach the places that they were trying to reach
Mm,
spiritually, like you're talking about, like it takes experiencing a spiritual event to understand it. There's not something you can just read and get it. They were that was their effort, was to alchemically, spiritually speaking, transform our consciousness into a higher consciousness. And
mm,
they were doing so through scientific practice and ritual. Um, and so I resonate with that. Like I feel what you're saying, and I agree with you. I'm on board with that same type of thought where um, so like really like convicted in my faith as a Christian leaving high school. Um, I went to a Catholic university. Not that it felt Catholic in the least. It's called a Catholic university,
mm,
but very secular in practice it seemed. But and I was pretty convicted there as well for a short time, and it wasn't until I experienced that melting pot of culture that is the university experience, that I realized that these people over here that don't subscribe to what I subscribe to, they're just as cool, and they're just as valid, and they seem to love just as much. um, and that kind of implanted the seed, the thought, like, okay, maybe their morals and convictions don't need to come from Christianity like I think mine do. um, Theirs are coming from whatever they believe. And so that was
mm,
what I thought. I kind of stayed on the Christian bandwagon for a while, and honestly, I stayed on that bandwagon for a long time. I stayed there for um, probably until like 2016, 2017, that I started to really question why I believed what I believed. Like I never really questioned the why. If I questioned anything, it was me questioning, um, why others didn't.
mm,
But so finally, I came to the question, like, why do I believe? And of course, the ego in me, the comfort in me was like, no, no, it's you stop. It's you believe because you've experienced and because you felt and because of this, because of that. But I tried to take a little bit more of like an objective lens to it, and so I traced why I was a Christian. So when I was younger, um, like as a little guy, I don't really remember being like religion being in the house at all.
Mm.
We were just chilling, like, sorry, very usually it was, the connotation, I if I can remember back, was very similar to how it was after, religion was in the house. But so like as a little guy, um, my mom got diagnosed with diabetes. That was um, uh, uh, a scary time at the moment. And my older brother Derek, who's a wonderful human being. He's an incredible person, and he came in to the house, and he, he prayed over her, and then kind of administered salvation to like her and my dad. And I was still so young that I didn't really understand what was happening. So it wasn't until a few years later in church that I received, salvation in that respect, or gave my life to Christ. But um, but like that was like the first real introduction to it. And so like as a little kid, I was like, oh, this guy who I respect and love and who's so good and who's always been a good like big brother figure for me, that's what he does. I want to be like that, And then my dad got really involved in the church. He was a deacon for a long time. And so for me, that was, that's the path I'm supposed to go down. And then obviously I meet you at the school that we were going to, and they were very Christian and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'd never really had room to question. And so it wasn't until I started like putting those pieces together, I'm like, so had that never happened when I was a kid, I may have never found myself being a Christian. Of course, I would have known about it. It's the most common religion in the U.S.,
Mm-hmm.
but I might not have ever found myself being a Christian, so
Yeah.
to speak. And so that was strange for me to think. I'm like, so what would I have been left to my own devices? And I'm like, well, with that
Mm-hmm.
question, that's a loaded gun, like it just
Uh,
blows up and goes everywhere. So I had to really sit and contemplate, and which of course led me through studying theology, and I wanted to understand different world religions, but not just the ones that we have today. I wanted to
yeah.
study old religions, like what did they believe before
Mm-hmm.
Christianity, what did they believe before
Yeah.
Judaism,
Yeah.
and why did they believe it, and um,
Yeah.
and that kind of led me through my spiritual journey, and kind of piecing together what I have now in my head, which I don't really have a name for what I have in my head, because I don't really, and it's strange. I don't really subscribe to a specific god or pantheon of gods. Like I don't really have that type of thing, so to speak. Like I have ones that I like. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like as an example, I really fuck with I love Egyptian mythology and things like that. Like I love the stories, but that doesn't necessarily
Mm-hmm.
mean I believe in them as as the
Mm.
God that I worship.
Yeah.
Um, but what I would say, and what I can agree with you, is that like the feeling of being in the presence of whatever that is a love feeling. It's
Mm-hmm.
very powerful. It's very strong. It's also very chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's it's all encompassing. It's everything. So one school of thought that I do subscribe to, I wouldn't call it religious, um, at least not in the traditional term, turn of phrase, but I subscribe to Hermeticism to a degree, um, and the first principle that you have to acknowledge is that like everything is God in a sense, or like the God energy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if there is creation, um, then everything that is created is part of creation, and that is part of the source of creation in and of itself. Um, and if it's an intelligent creation, then we exist within the mind, so to speak, of that
Mm-hmm.
creator. And so we're all tethered universally and interconnected as a universal being.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's one of the first principles that you have to understand in order to continue diving deeper into it. And it's kind of where I fit. I feel like I look at people in a different way as a result of it. And I
Mhm.
try to, whereas when I was a Christian, um, and not to demonize Christianity, like that's not what I'm trying to do. It's so my only other reference. But
Mhm.
so when I was a religious person, I would meet people and I would have the love feeling for them, but it was more like, um, I feel like I need to help them almost. It was a very egotistical from a point of
Mhm.
like of superiority, not like I thought I was better, but rather I had arrived and they haven't.
Mhm.
And so like I would meet people and I would think, like I need to find a way to interject Jesus into their life, like, and
Uh-huh.
um and now it's a very different kind of perspective where like I meet people and like I already recognize within them, whether they see it or not, like I try to recognize within them their completeness and their connectedness to divinity, whether they recognize it or not. Their belonging in that web, so to speak, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Mhm.
And it's been a weird journey for me. Like I'm sure you've had your ups and downs. I've had my ups and downs with it. But it's really strange. And like studying world religions and what people believed before, and then studying
Mhm.
experiences from people that do like entheogenic substances and things like that to have that communion, so to speak. Um,
Mhm.
it's led me through this really weird like tunnel, so to speak, the tunnel system of spirituality. Um, but yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at with that one. If I had
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. The so um like one of the okay do you want to do like a little experiment, I guess we could talk about like what are the things that we would want in our new religion. Let's talk about that maybe, like or maybe I will like say I imagine like there's got to be some form of music. You got to have that. Got to have some sort of like dancing, I don't know, or movement,
Movement. Yeah.
movement, and um, something. But dude, it would be it would be phenomenal if as because I've experienced going to church and and like heightened spiritual like experiences in congregations and stuff. But man, if we had a culture that was okay with psychedelic substances, maybe as okay with that as they are with like I don't know, like uh, painkillers, or something like it would be really nice to be able to have these experiences like doing music and doing having art and having some sort of movement together with people, with other human beings, and almost in like to physical objects holding consciousness to be together in a space and experience that together. I think that is something I would love. Um, I would love for groups of people to be able to come together and and lose their ego and share that experience in however mode that they can, whether it be art, music, whether it be science. Um, like that's the kind of thing that if that is like the thing that I would love for the world to have um, in my lifetime. Like to have a society that is okay with that. That's
Yeah.
the kind of thing and I really hate that there is so much stigma around psychoactive drugs, because we as a society are okay with so many other drugs, and I think we also need to acknowledge um, how big of a component drugs have on our society. Not just the fun ones, but I'm talking about like all these other ones, like all the boring. So everybody is we have like everybody is on some sort of medicine, like, or not everybody, but everybody. There's so many people who are like the society we live in is a bunch of there is a pill pusher society, I guess.
Well,
You know what I mean? But it yeah.
no.
Go
So I
ahead.
just wanted to say, like on that, like it's important to acknowledge that a drug is only something that alters a state of being, whether it's mental or physical. That's what a
Yeah.
drug does. And so a drug is that really warm, tasty meal at the end of the day. A drug is the dopamine rush you get from a new season from your favorite show you get to binge,
On
right?
Netflix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
drugs, we're all on drugs all the time,
Yeah.
and
We're all the time. All
it's
the
really
time.
important to know that.
Yeah.
It's really important to note that everybody is on drugs all the time,
Yeah.
um, and it's only the drugs that everyone like that are deemed acceptable that we're all on. So,
Yeah.
we go from as small as the universal drug of food and water
Uh-huh.
that satisfy us
Yeah.
to to the extreme of people being on antidepressants and painkillers and things like that. Um, and
Even
it's
simply breathing uh could induce, I mean, will make you feel better, but also could induce you to a higher state of, or a different state of being. It's like,
100%
it's just something basic like that.
just meditative
But
breathing. Absolutely.
yeah, the agriculture industry, like the types of foods that we have access to, I think that plays a huge role on how our brain functions and how we think. Like the marketing, all the things that we see on our phone, everything that all contributes to our consciousness. And to
Yeah.
to 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 have a like to not even be able to study, um I mean, well, now in I mean, I guess in Colorado there's legalized medicinal mushrooms, psychoactive mushrooms, which is a really interesting and great thing. Like, I'm glad that there's like actually, like, that's what I'm saying, science and love. Like, to we should be able to study, to rely on science and to study things and also combine that with love, and
Yep.
like that should yield like that kind of thing that I want. That's what I'm looking for, Philip. That's what I'm looking for, is that kind of like that kind of thing. So whatever we could do to get there, you know,
No, I feel you.
uh, yeah,
I agree. I think we need to be able, as a society, as a culture, we need to be able to have the freedom to, in all forms, like explore our what it is to be a human and our consciousness, and that doesn't just mean, because obviously, like we the last few minutes have been on like the freedom to be able to study and explore with psychoactive substances, but it doesn't even have to be limited to that. It's back to
no,
our original
definitely not.
conversation. It's music, it's art,
Yes,
it's our getting up and dancing in the middle of in the middle of the road somewhere, you know what I mean, like as
yeah,
a group. It's being able to explore it's being free from judgment, and the
yes,
ability to just look, I'm gonna, I want to study this new religion, and I'm going to be doing these rituals, and I'm going to be, whatever these practices are, without the fear of cultural stigma in that.
yeah.
um and
Or to
but
be
the
able to
thing,
walk outside at night, the freedom to be able to walk outside at night without like having any fear. Like that
yeah,
that is something to strive for. Like that's the kind of thing that I want in my new world. Um, like it'll be cool, dude, to have like some, like to be able to do things with, I don't know. Like I'm a guy, so I feel like I have a privilege on that end. But I mean, like, it'd just be nice to like be able to walk anywhere at night and not have to like feel like even the slightest bit of uncertainty or fear. That would be great.
yeah, no, I, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think that we'll ever really see that.
Mm-hmm.
um And even if we were somehow able to get everyone to chill and accept one another, there's so much evolutionary programming um, that goes that that tells us darkness is dangerous and things like that. Like this. So here's a funny one.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny in
Oh,
the. Go ahead.
real quick, my phone is 8% battery, so and
Okay,
it's going to end soon. But
no
we'll
worries.
keep talking as long as we
Yeah,
can.
well, it just on that, it was funny in an ironic way. There was a social experiment that was done,
Mm,
um, and what they did is they had um, a bunch of different people, uh, one at a time, stand and have they had to. I forget if it was like a fake gun that they had in their hand or if they just had to point, but they had to gesture, and they gauged their physical response to different kinds of threats.
mm,
And they had uh, the two polarizing ones where they had a couple white guys um, jump out, and one guy was doing something really casual. The other guy was actually a bad guy. Um, and then they had the same thing with two black guys, and it was amazing to see that across the board, even with black people, that the response against the two black guys was far more harsh,
yeah,
and fueled more with a fear than it was with the
uh-huh,
white guys who are doing the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
And it's even amongst black people responding the same way, is that it was the irony. It was like, holy cow, like that's intense. And that comes
yeah,
down to that evolutionary programming that we've put in our heads from our cultures. And so
yeah,
like, as even if we were to get everybody to chill out and desire wanting to accept and love and treat everybody well, the utopic idea, that's a far off thing. But I agree.
yeah.
I think the road to that utopia is just getting everybody to in the hippy dippy way, just learn to let go and just accept one another. But um
Well, do what we can. That's part of it. Because I acknowledge that it is a systemic, it is a deeply systemic thing that is also has been carried out through generations, like generational trauma, and that's something that will be fixed systemically. But what we could do now is that connection,
yep.
as we have that universal connection, that universal consciousness highway or whatever, where we could write to each other, we could play music to each other, that allows us to solve these systemic things, come together on like helping the starving kids, man, like that basic thing, to come together, to come back to the campfire, okay, and have a legitimate, like a real, like attempt at solving it, because it's not gonna happen online, it's not gonna happen through that, you
I
know,
agree.
it's never
um
gonna happen that way.
So, for the sake of not having your phone just die to end it, so
Oh,
with that one, I want to thank you, bro. It was awesome. I really appreciate you making the time to sit on here with me. I want to call this a part one, and I'd love to do a part
let's
two
do
with
it.
you,
Yeah,
um, because this was a really good conversation. And on that note, though, here is to more cosmic campfires and to many more awesome conversations, brother. I love you, and I'm glad that we got to do this.
love you too, man.
All right, I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right.